下了之后，二是水从那路上滑开。
Hello everyone, and welcome to the DisasterScope channel. Today we're tracking a once-in-a-century flooding disaster in Zhengzhou, China. The city's flood control system suffered heavy blows, torrential rains turned streets into rivers, inundated underpasses, and submerged vehicles in some locations. For safety, parts of the metro, including sections of Line 5 along with multiple urban tunnels and roads, were temporarily closed, while bus services were rerouted or suspended. In the face of a disaster like this, we need to know how to protect ourselves and our families. If you believe this coverage deserves wider attention, please hit subscribe to support our ongoing reporting, and join the conversation in the comments below. On August 3, 2025, the Central Plains city of Zhengzhou, China, once again fell under the grip of extreme weather. A summer severe convective storm system, like a raging beast, swept across the city with fierce winds and torrential rain. Striking with overwhelming force, this downpour was no ordinary rainfall. It arrived quietly at night and then poured in sheets, continuing until the early hours of August 4th and lasting for several hours over a 24-hour period. The estimated cumulative rainfall reached a staggering 500 to 600 millimeters, nearly on par with the extreme precipitation Zhengzhou experienced in July 2021, leaving many deeply concerned for the city's safety. The deluge rampaged through the city like a merciless flood beast. Because the rainfall was so concentrated and intense, widespread waterlogging quickly developed across urban districts. Streets turned into rivers. Low-lying areas became expanses of open water. Vehicles struggled through the flood, and some were submerged with only their roofs visible like isolated islands in a vast sea. Experts from the United States analyzing the flood noted that the city's stormwater systems were originally designed for lighter rainfall scenarios. Under the design concepts and standards of the time, such drainage systems were adequate for routine rainfall. However, when confronted with rainfall of this magnitude, the existing systems prove inadequate and cannot handle the immense drainage load. It is akin to trying to pass a flood through a small-diameter pipe, clearly unworkable. As a result, many neighborhoods suffered severe internal flooding, greatly disrupting residents' lives, according to local sources. Several key pieces of infrastructure in Zhengzhou were once again heavily damaged by the storm. Underground road tunnels and sections of Zhengzhou Metro Line 5 known to have flooded rapidly in past incidents were among those affected. In the July 2021 storm, floodwaters breached the designed waterproof barriers of Line 5, immobilizing trains, trapping many passengers, and causing serious casualties and property losses. In this latest event, similar vulnerabilities appear to have resurfaced. Footage from the scene shows vehicles in large tunnels lifted and buffeted by swift currents, colliding with one another, while intersecting roads were completely inundated and impassable, cut off like islands surrounded by water.
Yet,
thế là thế cứ đâu nó tắt ai rồi la ho
Confronted with the severity of the storm, the Zhengzhou Meteorological Observatory moved quickly, escalating its notice to a red rainstorm warning at the earliest moment. A red rainstorm warning signifies very high intensity and broad impact, with the potential for severe flooding and geological disasters, urging the public to take full precautions. At the same time, the city's flood control authorities raised the emergency response to the highest level and activated a series of urgent countermeasures to remove standing water as quickly as possible. Flood control departments deployed large numbers of pumps, drainage guardians, so to speak, working around the clock to move water to designated areas. Diversion channels were also open to route water elsewhere, easing the load on drainage systems. In addition, substantial support teams were sent into multiple districts to tackle internal flooding, disregarding personal risks. They waded through floodwaters to clear drains and rescue stranded residents, becoming the most striking presence amid the storm. At the scene, one eyewitness, voice trembling, said, "Several people drowned in their look up ahead," heartrending words that underscored the tragedy. To ensure public safety, metro service on affected lines has been suspended indefinitely. This decision reflects lessons learned from 2021's tunnel inundation and train entrapments, aiming to prevent a repeat of such casualties. Surface transportation was also heavily disrupted. Commuter buses were halted, and multiple expressways and tunnels were closed for public safety. For a time, the city's transportation network was paralyzed, making travel extremely difficult for residents.
天哪！
Following the disaster, the Zhengzhou municipal government swiftly activated the city's Flood Control Command Center to coordinate rescue efforts across departments. Agencies were directed to set up temporary shelters in safe venues such as schools and civic centers to provide refuge for affected residents. They also ensured emergency services in inundated neighborhoods, delivering essential supplies and medical assistance. Teams comprising municipal staff, volunteer groups, and professional rescue units quickly engaged in dewatering and debris-clearing operations with clear roles and close coordination. Some operated pumping equipment, others cleared roadway debris, and still others rescued stranded vehicles and people. Thanks to their efforts, roads cut off by flooding were gradually reopened and the city's traffic order began to recover. A volunteer involved in the rescue said, "Seeing so many people affected is heartbreaking. We just want to do our part to help them return to normal life as soon as possible." It is thanks to these selfless rescuers that Zhengzhou has managed to retain a tough resilience in the face of the storm.
看这大哥，
我不知道，我们只有上高速吧，不是特别喜欢。这么大房子都着了。
Commentators and structural analysis experts conducted in-depth assessments of the disaster. They pointed out that key facilities, pumping stations, floodgates, and levee systems were subjected to loads beyond their rated capacities during the storm. While crucial to urban flood defense, these systems can be outmatched by extreme rainfall because of limitations in design standards and construction scale. The catastrophic flooding of 2021 exposed several design flaws. For instance, inadequate flood walls for some underground facilities that failed to block incoming waters, and a lack of temporary water barrier measures that could be deployed rapidly. Today's storm appears to have triggered failures in similar locations, indicating that urban flood defenses still have notable shortcomings that require further upgrades and refinements. Experts also stressed that the intensity of this storm aligns with the trend of more intense extreme precipitation driven by climate warming as global warming intensifies. Extreme weather events are occurring more often and with increasing severity. A recent comparative study of water ingress incidents in urban rail and subway systems listed Zhengzhou alongside New York, Boston, and London as emblematic cases of 21st-century cities that struggle to adapt to climate-driven heavy rainfall. In July 2025 alone, flooded subways disrupted multiple global transport hubs, clear evidence that urban flood protection has become a worldwide challenge. The 2021 disaster left Zhengzhou with painful lessons, among them weaknesses in metro design and delays in suspension decisions which still weigh on people's minds. These lessons have become central to current discussions about reconstruction and future-focused resilience planning in reconstruction. It is essential to factor in potential future extremes and raise both design standards and construction quality for urban flood defenses. For underground facilities like subways, waterproofing must be strengthened, flood walls heightened and thickened, and temporary barriers installed to boost flood resistance. At the same time, emergency early warning systems should be enhanced for greater accuracy and timeliness, ensuring the public can be notified to act before disaster strikes. Urban drainage construction and retrofits must also be strengthened, enlarging pipe diameters, increasing the number and capacity of pump stations to improve drainage capability. Urban layouts should be planned prudently to avoid placing critical infrastructure and residential areas in low-lying zones, thereby reducing potential losses, yet even as response efforts continue. On August 3rd, Zhengzhou was hit by another burst of sudden urban flooding during renewed heavy rain. The downpour, devilish in force, once more overwhelmed transport infrastructure, metro tunnels, and roadway drainage systems. City traffic again fell into paralysis, and residents' lives were severely affected once more. With emergency mechanisms activated, relevant departments raced against time to conduct rescue and recovery operations.
Habis.
They mobilized substantial manpower and resources to repair damaged infrastructure, pump out floodwater, and rescue stranded residents. However, the weak links in urban design were exposed once again, underscoring that building urban flood resilience is a long and arduous endeavor rather than something that can be achieved overnight amid increasingly frequent extremes. Broader calls have emerged across society to accelerate modernization of flood resilience systems in this era of intensifying storms. This is not only necessary to protect lives and property, but also an essential requirement for sustainable urban development. Modernizing flood resilience systems requires joint participation from government, industry, and the wider public. Governments should increase investment, set sound plans and policies, and guide and advance the construction and retrofitting of flood defenses. Enterprises should fulfill social responsibilities, invest in innovation and R&D, and provide advanced technologies and equipment for urban flood protection. All sectors should raise flood risk awareness and actively participate in outreach and volunteer efforts to foster a safer, more resilient city. We advise residents in low-lying or historically flood-prone areas to stay indoors, avoid underground passages, and not wade across inundated roads. These locations are especially dangerous during heavy rain. For personal safety, please heed guidance and take protective measures. Reports indicate that rain shelters and temporary relief stations have been set up to provide dry spaces and limited supplies for affected residents. These facilities serve as warm harbors, offering essential aid and support to those impacted. We hope people in need will seek assistance at these locations promptly. This extreme weather episode once again underscores the need to accelerate investment and upgrades in urban stormwater drainage, underground transit flood protection, and real-time emergency warning systems. Only by continually improving urban flood defenses and boosting resilience can we safeguard lives and property during future extremes and make cities safer, more stable, and more sustainable.
家人们，我们龙江涨大水了，现在我们小区。
Thank you for watching DisasterScope, where we unpack the facts behind nature's most powerful moments. If you found this episode helpful, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support drives our continued updates. And tap the bell to receive timely, objective, and clear briefings. Note, some footage may be illustrative and not correspond to specific incidents described. See you next time. Stay tuned and stay safe.